Welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast. As you all know, this is the show where we unpack what's really happening inside modern businesses, not the buzzwords, not the hype, but the decisions, tensions, and trade offs leaders face every day. Okay, if you have ever worked in SaaS, built a product, or even just used software at work, you have felt it. Everything is moving faster. AI is everywhere. Roadmaps keep changing. Customers want more. Yesterday, teams feel stretched, and innovation feels less like a breakthrough moment and more like a constant pressure. And today's conversation is about that pressure, listeners. Not innovation as a slogan, but innovation as a practice. What actually works, what breaks down, and what product learner leaders often get wrong when they try to scale. And listeners, I am joined by Don Stoddard, a product management leader and consultant with over 20 years of experience helping SaaS companies grow smarter. Don has led global product teams at Monster.com, SumTotal, and Softscape, launching platforms used by millions and driving real gains in engagement and revenue. And today, through his firm Blueprint product, he works with SaaS and AI-driven companies to turn strategy into execution, aligning teams, customers, and outcomes. Don, welcome to BizBlend, and I'm really glad that you are here with us.
Yeah, hi, Son. It's great to be here and great to cover this topic in terms of innovation and software. I've traveled a lot in globally, and one of the things I've noticed working with enterprise companies is just how similar a lot of the challenges are in organizations, and how everyone really tries to focus on solving those things. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Don, I think before we begin on exploring more about SaaS and then AI and everything, let's focus on innovation first because to be honest, it's one of the most overused words in SaaS. Like every company claims it. I think it is easily now replaced by AI, but innovation, every company claims it. Every roadmap promises. From your experience, what actually separates meaningful innovation from just shipping more features?
that's a great question. I think what I've seen is having a real vision about where you want to take the technology or take the company. That sort of sets a framework that allows you to get out of the individual features. Oftentimes, organizations have hundreds and hundreds of ideas. How do you separate
Mm,
what's really innovative versus, uh, what is just an additional feature? Really is thinking through the vision of where you wanna go and how that adds value for the people you're trying to serve. And so, what I've seen is if you can do research to really understand your customer, really refine that vision, that makes the innovation and the choices around innovation, because it really is comes down to a choice of how do you, put your focus, um, is so critical.
makes sense. Makes sense. And when as you mentioned about the word focus, like when teams hear it, they often worry. It means like saying no to good ideas, like just um fixating on or just stressing on one particular idea in there or challenge. How do you help product teams decide what not to build without killing morale or creativity?
And that can happen. I mean, I've seen it in organizations where you do get hyper focused in one area at the exclusion of other things. What I work with teams and organizations on is the idea that it's sort of a continuous planning, continuous ideas. You just want to continually test your ideas and continue to bring ideas in.
Mhm.
Many times teams, as you said, will are going down a certain focus and a strategy, and when new ideas come in, they sort of discount those or put them off. I think having a process in which you can intake and review ideas on a regular, say, monthly basis to look at what are good ideas that are coming up. I think there's also areas in which you can spin off smaller teams to develop some ideas, but it's
Mm,
absolutely challenging to be so hyper focused at the exclusion of other things.
mm, mm. And what I'm hearing is what I realize is innovation. It is less about creativity alone and more about restraint. I mean, that is uncomfortable, especially in SaaS cultures, um, mostly rewarding speed and visibility. And I believe it also suggests that leadership maturity, it shows up in what gets cut, not what gets announced.
Absolutely. I think, um, you can end up taking on too many things or just not being clear with the teams about where you're going to focus. And it goes back to having that vision about where you want to go. I think, in terms of just from a process perspective, many times teams will look at prioritizing the hundreds of ideas that they have in place without getting clarity and alignment on the vision. So, what I've done working with teams is really talk about where would we like to be in 12 months, 18 months, and really bring kind of the key metrics to the forefront about where do we want to go. That gives you essentially a filter to be able to say, okay, these ideas, are they moving us in that direction? Or are they moving us
Mm,
away from that? And that makes it, clearer and I think, and more exciting. I mean, developing software is fun. I think it's, had there's a lot of opportunity, to serve the customers and to build great products. But what's not fun is when you talked about that pressure of trying to feel like you have to do everything and not having clarity and having teams really working against each other on different areas. And the problem is, oftentimes SaaS companies just don't have, resources to fund everything, right? So if you're doing a little bit of everything, you're really not moving the product forward in any way that's meaningful. And so, um, if you think about just resources and how can I best use resources to move something that's exciting for the customer, that's going to drive sales, drive revenue, drive our goals. That's gets I think the whole organization excited. But you need a process in place around it. And as you said, you're saying yes to some things and saying no to others, um, or not now, right? It's not that you're saying no. It may be, hey, we're not doing it now, or we're going to evaluate it further. So having some nuance
mm,
around how you respond, and not having it be black and white, yes or no, but maybe there's some categories like not now or let's evaluate.
mm, exactly, exactly. I think um like going backwards, like whether this is necessary or not. And I think that this particular approach, what I believe is also applicable in approaching AI as well, because it's everywhere right now. And once again, many SaaS companies, they feel this pressure to add AI features just to stay relevant. And so, Don, a direct question here, like in how many cases AI is genuinely improving product decisions, and in how many cases it is just noise?
Yeah, I think AI is, if used correctly, can add a lot of value to product teams and users as well. Um, what isn't helpful is if you kinda take the approach of trying to focus on AI before you have sort of the clear product goals and the clear strategy. I think, evaluating AI in the context of how can I support what customers are trying to do? How can I support goals? How can I even support the product teams? I mean, AI is great at synthesizing information. It's proven to be effective at smaller tasks. I think when you start to, make the task too big, sometimes AI loses focus, um, and also that's cost around it. So, I think, from what I've seen, if you can make the task small enough and you can make it well defined enough, and it's within the context of your business goals, I think it's pretty powerful. One of the thing I've seen people use it, is sort of an advisor, right? If you can give
Yeah.
AI the information about your products, your services, data about, from the user, have some very narrow use cases, and allow AI to give advice and context, that's a great starting point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Someone like a subject matter expert or a mentor or a consultant, who knows exactly. Like once again, I think this directly, uh, you know, proves that it's not just AI, but it's a blend of AI and human intelligence as well. Human intelligence, human decisions, and the real on ground situations, customer facing, front facing situations, that can actually, this combination can actually help in understanding, it may look small, at a bigger scale, but then these problems or these challenges, they can help in bringing much more clarity on a product level as well and at a team level as well.
Yeah, I think, you need to evaluate the risk, and so the AI human combination it lowers risk because you're not fully automating everything. I think eventually we will get there. You'll see more automation, and you do see some of those use cases. Having AI support the human decision and make it faster is where a lot of companies are making kind of their first steps.
Agreed, agreed. Don, can you share any case study, where um maybe, we can like kind of see like how a company has specifically used AI thoughtfully, supporting decisions, customer value, and just kind of avoiding the AI theater. Like any case study if you can give for our listeners.
Yeah, I think, there's a few great, examples out there. One being, I think in terms of just a more advanced use of AI is if you look at, the application around, Duolingo and, what they're doing
Mhm.
in terms of helping people learn a specific language. And I think anybody who's tried to learn a language, it is challenging, and it's also hard to figure out exactly where you are, to challenge you, to give you the right
Mhm.
examples, but not make it too hard so that you don't know. And I think Duolingo's done a great job of kind of using what it knows about you to give you specific examples that aren't too hard, but are hard enough. And I think that's a great use case. There's also, if you go to, cargurus.com, they've started to
Mhm.
add some AI, into their product as well. And, if you go to Car Gurus, you're really searching for, a used car, essentially a traditional search. But they essentially put an adjacent search next to it, which is really like, chatting with the search capability to be able to say, "Hey, this is the type of car I want," and then it comes back. So instead of using the search filters, which we're all used to doing, you're basically just describing the car you'd like, and then you're having a conversation about the car, and then it's coming back. The nice thing about that use case is, in the case of car gurus, they're not replacing the filtering, so it's lower risk. This is an additional capability for users to be able to interact with. And the AI is able to ask additional questions, right? So it is sort of a choice, and I think that sort of AI advisor is an interesting capability. I've also built something on my website, blueprintproduct.com, which is an insights tool. If you look at LinkedIn and you look at all the information that's pouring out about AI and, product management, it's hard to distill in a given month what are the trends that are really solid and what's the information. There's just so much coming along. And so what I built is a AI tool that essentially goes out and looks at 20 different blogs on analyzes them into trends. And so what you get on a weekly basis on the insights tab is 3 trends that are sort of relevant and current, and kind of just distills down, and it does some deeper analysis in terms of giving you some reference information as well. So those are 3 examples, Sana, that I would point to that I think are interesting and kind of shows the progression of AI.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, I think some really good examples out there, and that's quite an interesting feature in there. And do you think that you know because now we are coming to alignment here, like because you have worked with large global product teams, um, alignment is something leaders they are talking about it constantly, but uh, you know it often breaks down in practice. So my question to you is, Don, like where do you see alignment fail most often in scaling SaaS organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I think alignment is a huge challenge. If you look at any product leader job description, alignment is, top on the list in terms of aligning the stakeholders and just gaining that support
Mm-hmm.
for the direction. I think, as a product leader, it is, one of the things that I, focus on. I think part of it is just recognizing that, there's not a tool or a framework that you're going to introduce that's going to magically make everybody aligned. I think, what you really need to do is understand the individual folks at the leadership level one on one. What are they trying to accomplish? What do they see the goals as? What do they need in the short term? What are their pain points? So, what I try to do is just understand them one on one, and then align at a higher level. I think what I've seen is oftentimes, you can align on the key metrics around revenue or, say, visits to a particular site or new customers or things like that. And so those types of areas are great ways to get quick alignment, and then broaden that out and then really show your rationale of how you're going from that to product investments. And so when it comes to the product investments, that's where oftentimes you might have some conflict or alignment. But I think if you can start at the higher level and then bring understanding what people need into the details, that really helps. Where I've seen it really doesn't work is if you just, kind of publish something and expect everybody to get aligned around it. Um, that's going to be really challenging.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I think this highlights something important. Like alignment. It isn't agreement in meetings, but um, it's clarity in decisions, and I think this directly connects back to where we began our conversation from. I think if teams can't explain why something matters or who it is for, I believe alignment probably never existed in the very first place. Don.
That's right. And I think, oftentimes, you can get alignment in meetings, as you said, but then people don't really follow, because they have their own specific challenges they're trying to solve. And it's just a lack of understanding of what the challenges that each, groups in the organization have. But that vision, I think, is so important to get everyone aligned around the vision.
Exactly, exactly. I think you hit the right word in the vision. Um, Don, I would like to go back to the examples that you shared. Something that popped up in my mind. Um, when SaaS teams add AI, are they building something customers want to engage with, or are they using AI as a shortcut to increase adoption metrics?
I think it's both. Um,
Mm.
I think, you know, uh, I think you sort of have AI coming into place around, as sort of an advisor, as almost like a coworker, essentially, where, as you engage with a particular product, many SaaS software products have so many menus and so much capability, and just reading the how to, FAQ help section, there's hundreds and hundreds of pages, and a lot of times, users and managers don't get the most out of the product. Um, that's a great opportunity for AI to come in and just be able to surface and really be as a translator to say, "Look, I'm a manager trying to do X," and AI comes in and says, "Hey, here's how you could do this. Here's how you could optimize it for the team." Um, but I think, we're also seeing how AI can help in terms of looking at data of individuals, looking at the options and being able to fit people. I think that Duolingo example was a great example of how you're really optimizing engagement, right? With Duolingo,
Yep.
you know, hey, if I'm successful and challenged, right, then I'm
Mhm.
excited to continue. But if I'm not challenged, um, and it's where it's not too hard, then, yeah, I'm gonna drop off. So, finding that right balance, and that's a case where, AI is perfect to be able to say, "Look, here are the options we have, and here is the data for this individual. What's the best match?" And being able to have it be ongoing learning to say, "Hey, this worked and this didn't." I think that's the other interesting thing about AI is that it can record results and then use those results to best predict the next match, which is really interesting.
It is. It is. It is. And before we wrap up, I think it's a very, very crucial, Don, a lot of SaaS teams are exhausted right now, like constant launches, constant changes, pivots, urgency. What's one habit, or maybe more than one, or system that product leaders can put in place this year or this quarter, at least, to reduce burnout without slowing progress?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a couple things that I would look at is, 1, preparation and planning. I think, when you're in those state of, constant delivery and thinking that, "Look, I need to get through this month," what falls aside is the preparation and the planning. So, what I would, you know, be conscious around, I think this can have a big impact, is to build a habit of preparation, even on a daily basis. Daily, but even, from a team perspective, weekly and monthly, to be able to pull out of the day to day and just see how you're tracking against those goals. So that's one, I think, key habit that I would, is just prepare for meetings, every meeting that you're in.
Yeah. And I think this also reframes innovation as something that should feel steady, not frantic. Um, sustainable innovation, it seems to require leaders who are willing to slow the chaos, even, when the market is too demanding or absolutely fast paced. So, um, Don, if listeners, they would like to connect with you, or if they have, thoughts or opinions after this conversation that they would like to share with you, what would be the easiest way to connect?
Yeah, I think on LinkedIn, you can reach me on, my profile, Don Stoddard. Also on blueprintproduct.com, you can reach me on donstoddard@blueprintproduct.com. So, would love to connect with folks and exchange ideas.
Brilliant, brilliant. Listeners, there you go. I'll have all the details and the links to connect with Don, and just refer to them in the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And first of all, Don, thank you so much for this honest conversation. I really appreciate that you didn't lean into easy answers. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
And listeners, what stands out to me is this idea that real SaaS innovation is quieter than we expect. It's less about chasing trends and more about clarity, less about adding features and more about making decisions, less about speed and more about focus. So, for listeners who are building or leading products right now, the takeaway is simple. It's not easy, that innovation isn't something you announce, it is something you practice daily. And thank you for tuning this to this podcast. If this episode sparked a new way of thinking of SaaS within you, or product leadership, or AI, make sure to subscribe, share it with your team, and keep the conversation going. This is Sana, and you have been listening to BizBlend. Thank you.